The Morning Brew podcast with Jaffe and Razor, sponsored by Berkshire Bank Home Lending. Where you borrow matters. Well, it's been 9 days since Jaffe and Razor got together to talk hockey as the Boston Bruins lost their first-round playoff series against the Carolina Hurricanes. And we took a little hiatus for, well, a couple of reasons. Some work commitments, some family commitments, and just more than anything, perhaps to clear the mind a little bit because talking a lot of Boston Bruin hockey. And I think it's good to take a step back before we give you our postseason analysis. A couple of things have happened in the meantime since. But more importantly, Razor, there's been a few other things I think that have gone on. And I'll ask you this. A, have you gotten any rest since then? Do you feel a little bit more rested since the end of the season?
Yes, certainly no midnight talks between you and I, which has been a nice routine to get out of, I suppose, at this time of year. And yeah, pretty well rested. We're going to take a little vacation this week, which will be nice. 3 or 4 days away with the family. I've made them stick around the past 5 or 6 months, so the kids are excited, and we'll get more rest, and then we're into summer.
Okay. The other thing is the lawn care. How has that gone? Because you've had a little bit more time, I'm going to assume. I know that I have to start taking care of it. So how's the initial lawn process been?
It's good. It looks better than it is, so I'm happy about that. The back, I still need to topsoil, but I think I've almost, like with that heat last week, I didn't want to get into that, and so I'm almost resigned to fall with the topsoiling in the backyard to flatten things out a little. I need to get the mulch. That's next week's project. I like to wait till after Memorial Day with the mulch, so it's coming along though. Looks good, so that's half the battle, I guess.
That's interesting. Mine, I think, looks better than it is as well. Still, the back is spotty. It's grown in better.
Yeah.
There's been one product that I tried that I will never use again. I will not give it a ringing endorsement. So I'm going to have to actually reseed some areas. And Cooper, he just has these two, I call them now pits. He just dug these. Oh, there's like little bit of, it's like the top of my head. There's a little bit of hair there in certain spots, but Cooper he just sits there like the proud golden retriever he is, and it must be nice and cool for him. So I've given up seeding those areas, but the front, I actually had a little bit of topsoil put down, a little bit more seed in a few areas, but it looks good right now. The flowers are starting.
Yeah.
It's very green. Certain flowers have gotten going, but I'm a little concerned that there may be a little some bald spots later.
That midsummer, and we haven't had a lot of rain. It feels like it's going to be a long summer of maintenance.
Yes, it does. It does here too. And I'm trying to get a lot done. You're going on vacation. I leave for basically a month probably Monday, maybe Tuesday, depending on when the next round begins. I'll get home in between rounds, but covering the Eastern Conference Final and then the Stanley Cup for NHL Network and NHL Radio. And, there's no lawn care at that time then. If I get home for a day, I'll cut it, and that's about it. But I'm definitely looking forward to it, but depending on where I go, some cases more than others. All right, enough of the long soliloquy about stuff like that. Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor. This episode is brought to you by Fazenda, our wonderful friends over at Fazenda Coffee. They've got a couple of mugs left, I can tell you that. Make sure to check out fazendacoffee.com/morningbrew. Order $45 or more, and you can get yourself a free Morning Brew mug. Not a lot left, Razor, but Pete tells me he's got a couple there, and would be happy to keep selling them. He has loved what the Morning Brew faithful have brought them this year. And also this one brought to you by Shoot to Score. Go to shoottoscore.com. A dear buddy of mine, Glenn Tucker, Coach Tuck, shoots teaches shooting incredibly. He's got places in Woburn and in Dedham. Go to shootthescore.com. He's got some summer camps too. He's a big fan of the show. He's a big fan of the Bruins and everything. He's taught some Bruins players, a lot of NHLers too. Go check out shootthescore.com. Your hockey player will love it. Let me ask you this as we start. Here we go. Let's get into the Boston Bruins postseason special brew. Now that we've had 9 days away and we've had time to reflect and perhaps to almost forget a little bit, which is never a bad thing because then it forces you to remember again, and you kind of maybe sometimes you step back, right, and you get a better view. What are the Boston Bruins now to you? What are they? It's a grandiose question, but it's a perfect way, I think, to begin. As you look at the team as they're constructed right now, and that's all we can go on right now. And after seeing them play in the playoffs, the regular season, and other teams now, Razor, what are the Boston Bruins to you?
They're a good hockey team. They were a good hockey team this season. They have one less win than the President's Trophy winning Florida Panthers in the Stanley Cup playoffs. You watch these groups, they could have won that game, but do they have enough to really be the elite team? No, I think that's fairly evident watching a Tampa Bay Lightning team up close, really watching them in that second round. So I think they're a good hockey team. They're more than maintenance away. They're probably similar to my lawn, where it looks good, but I also can foresee more than maintenance being done over the summertime for it to be Augusta-like come next season, come next playoffs. I think they need, and it was all mentioned for the most part in the postmortem by management, coaches, players, even where they do feel like they're a good team. They're not in a position where they're blowing the whole thing up, but they have to make some major adjustments. It sounds stylistically and certainly personnel wise to be a little bit harder to play against. I think that's the theme. You watch Tampa's the gold standard and how hard they are to play against, and their ability to play a lockdown style when it's necessary that the Bruins weren't able to do this past season.
Well, the amount of balls that the Tampa Bay Lightning have shown in these playoffs is so superior to anything that we saw this year, even from the Tampa Bay Lightning. But I think we've learned, and I think we know, you especially having played in the NHL, me being around the game, obviously having played it at a decent level, I would say, but not at your level. But it's not just the team with the biggest cojones, but it's also the team with the smartest cojones, if that makes sense, too, if that's such a thing. And they're a combination of it. And were they tired in the regular season, the Tampa Bay Lightning? Yeah, I think they were. Did they kind of go into cruise control a little? I think they did. I don't think they knew we could just turn it on whenever. But I think they knew deep down inside they had the heart of a champion, and they're showing that. The Bruins, I don't think they know that they have that yet. I don't. I think Patrice Bergeron knows what it takes. I think Brad Marchand knows what it takes. Charlie McAvoy seems to be on the precipice of knowing what it takes. He's a take charge guy. He is. Awesome. But after that, I don't know if they have enough of that, Razor. Now, does that come from just winning and experience? Maybe. Or does it come from the type of player that you've cultivated, whether it's via draft or trade or whatever? It doesn't matter. I agree with you. They're a good to very good team. And we talked about that throughout the year on Morning Brew. We thought at times, I thought at times they were very good. I thought, maybe just they could. But I think it was pretty clear to see. And again, having almost a week and a half to take a look back, that, you're kind of relying on certain things. I mean, we said going into the playoffs, that second pair could be a major issue. And the third line will have a major impact. And it wasn't just one guy that didn't come through. It was all of that.
All five.
All
right?
5 that came through. So that's not, see, to me, my dear friend and fellow analyst, I'm just wondering, that's just not 1 or 2 little tweaks. That's, how do you make that 5, for instance, that 5 that much better when you got the cap, when you've got limitations, you got guys under contract? I'm just a little concerned about that.
Yes, yeah, it's not an easy fix because
Mhm.
of, like you just said, salary cap. The good news is we're going to have a summer, the first summer in 2 or 3 years, where it's going to be longer. It's going to be more normal. I would assume there'll be a little bit more clarity for everybody, meaning salary cap wise, manager wise, what the next little, kind of back to normal,
Mhm.
right? Whatever that is. An 82 game season next year. Owners are going to be more likely to make moves and sign off on deals because they know they're going to get people in the building again.
Mhm.
So, there's going to be options, but it's going to, they're going to have to be creative, and they're going to have to be very smart. They don't have any room for error, right? The teams that win and the teams that are good, like, and only need 1 or 2 things, they can miss on a signing, they can miss on a trade. When you talk about the Bruins and the 5 spots we just talked about, and plus, you have to really hit home runs on what you're, and really, really be dedicated and really understand the direction of your team. And I think that's what I want to see mostly out of this summer is um, recognizing what's winning in this league and recognizing that we need to get to that, and not rely on hope and not rely on this guy's got to be the absolute best of his ability for us to go far. You need 10, 12 guys that you can rely on.
Right. And I think using a guy like Eric Howla,
Yeah.
they didn't know, but they hoped
Yeah.
that he'd be at the best ability to play second line
Nick
center.
Foligno, they hoped that
They
he was
hoped
going to
Nick
be
Foligno,
healthier
right,
than he was in
right,
Toronto. They hoped that was going to work out, and
right,
and they can't do that much hoping this summer.
right.
They need conviction, and it's going to take those cojones to pull some things off. I think as well. You're going to have to really be convicted in what you need, and you're going to have to go out on a limb and get it.
All right. One of those things that you just kind of touched on uh, a little bit. Uh, it's going to be led by Don Sweeney. Okay, meaning what that is, the off season.
Yeah.
Let's dive right into the Cam Neely, Don Sweeney, Bruce Cassidy situation scenario. End of year pressers. To paraphrase, and I'm assuming 99.99, if not 100% of our listeners know, both Don Sweeney and Cam Neely. First of all, Neely talked about that it looks like Don Sweeney's going to be back. Deal hasn't been done, but it's going to be done.
Mhm.
Right? Okay. Asked about coaching. Cam said it's going to be left up to Don Sweeney. And did then go on to admit that some ways of coaching, or stylistically, I guess, of coaching, again, just paraphrasing here, they're looking at to be different. Um, I mean, what did you make of those conversations that you heard where it it didn't come off as an ultimate ringing endorsement in my ears for their head coach? Yet it was, we love him, but we want to see some different things. And I get that, but then the question is, do you really have the team to play that way that you're talking about?
Yes, and it was a lot of, Cam talked about, more cycle offense, more down low play, and listen, this show, as much as any, has talked about needing bigger bodies,
Right.
wanting bigger bodies, back end, front end, the Pat Maroons, the Pauls, the
Yep.
guys that play heavy games is what changes things come playoff time, and that's loud and clear from Cam. That's what
Mm-hmm.
he is. That's what he believes in. That's what he built in 11 and 13. And he did also mention it's not easy either. It's not easy to get those guys because teams that have them don't want to get rid of them. And there's not a lot out there. So,
But if you can't get them, but you want to play that way,
mhm.
how do you I guess look to the coach? You just
Well,
say play that way.
Yes, and that's also a reason why I don't think you fire everybody because of that same reason, because that's what you've been, it's kind of like how Bruce would say we need another save,
Uh-huh.
right?
Uh-huh.
From Allmark after game, we need one more save, right? He's very easy to go at the goaltenders and say we need one more save. That was
Mhm.
kind of Cam Neely's one more save speech, and I think it can be beneficial to have these guys on the hot seat a little bit, both on it, like both under the gun come summertime, really thinking about what they need to change and how they need to change. And I think, it is a personnel thing, but it is also, Charlie Coyle should be able to play a down low game. Smith should, Frederick, we saw that third line play that kind of game. They got away from it, and I'm sure Cam's just as frustrated with the players, but at the end of the day, when he's doing that end of the year, he's going to go to the coach with that. He can't name 10 players. He's just not going to do that.
Mhm.
So to the point of how does that change? That's the $1 million question. If I knew that, if we knew that, I'd be in Don's office making real money. I wouldn't be, doing
Right.
podcasts. But I think that you can get some personnel that helps. Nick Delorier's of the world. There's some of those guys out there. The New York Rangers who are playing right now, they went out and made those adjustments. They signed Tenorti, who are the Bruins had. They signed Reeves. They made themselves bigger, heavier with guys that are, somewhat marginal, like some not available.
Mhm.
And when you have the coach and GM with a little more heat, a little more pressure on them than anything they've seen. Certainly Cassidy's had the carpet rolled out for him for 5 years now, and now it's, now he's going to have to really look internally and decide how and ways he can get these players better, and or what he needs from Don come summertime.
Well, I mean, but Butch has, done a pretty damn good job of winning. I mean, he's now regular season winning and some playoff success. I mean, got a team to the final.
Yeah.
I had one person say to me sometime, well, but that 19 they had the path was, great for them. Bullshit. I mean, you can't predict the path, so somebody's got to make it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You know what
No,
I
I know.
mean?
It's crazy. And you can't, that's the thing that it kind of irks me, because you just said it. They've won a lot. Don Sweeney's won all those games too, everybody.
Mhm.
He's also won all these games, and he's signed good deals. And
He
I
hasn't.
get
His
it.
draft has not
We'll
been.
go back to the draft. Great. Do you think
Right,
Matt Barzal is going to be in this lineup the same way he is in the Island? Matt Barzal had 15 goals last year. I hear Matt Barzal all the time. It drives me crazy. He had 15
no,
goals last year. He's
no,
making
no.
$8 million a year. They're not going to sign that guy. So it's
E-
like,
exactly. What I'm saying is, you can look at his draft and you can find some issues with it. I get
sure,
it.
yeah,
You absolutely can. His deals, for the most part, his trades especially, you really have a hard time arguing that they aren't been pretty damn good,
hmm,
making some good stuff out of some not so great stuff. I mean, I know Curtis Lazar, or I'm sorry, Taylor Hall had a decision where he was going to go, but to turn Anders Bjork, and what was it, a third round pick? I don't remember. Or first round, what was it?
yeah. It's a
And
whatever it
Curtis
was.
Lazar and
That
Taylor
proves that it
Hall,
didn't matter, because we don't know.
right? It was pretty damn good. And anyways, um, the big question is this, and there's been a lot of fan uh, chirping, a lot of fan interaction,
Oh yeah,
wanting to see heads roll. Um, I think I wouldn't fire Donnie either right now. I wouldn't. I wouldn't make that. I would, but this summer is, I think, going to tell a big story, a big story for him. I
hmm,
think it will, and I think it also is going to. I hope they don't move Butch. I really do. I love the guy as a coach. I mean, I think he does a lot of great stuff. I do. And I think he wins. And I don't think he should go anywhere either. And this isn't me sitting here and saying, oh, keep him because, it's a show about the Bruins and you talk about the Bruins on TV. I'm telling you, he's one of the better coaches out there.
yeah.
And
Who
I know there's been a lot of crazy movement in the NHL this year. And I know this really isn't the way. You shouldn't answer a question with a question. But who are you going to go out that's going to be
Better.
Better. And I'm not talking like then there's not many guys that are better than Bruce Cassidy out there. I'm telling you. Like very few.
And again, an uncomfortable Bruce Cassidy, an uncomfortable Don Sweeney, who are really to get in the weeds and really have a get better. They have to get better too, right? The coaches and GMs have to get better year after year, and this is going to force them to do that because of the situation they're in. They're frustrated, but yes, that's what you always can go back to. And I know it's easy to call into the radio show. It's easy to send out a tweet saying fire these guys, but who's coming in? Who you need to have a plan in the National Hockey. The only one that's been filled is the Islanders. They fired Trotz because they wanted Lane Lambert. Like Lou had a vision there. He had someone there. Mm-hmm. Everything else has been, it's still up in the air in a big way. And I just feel
mind you, I guarantee you there are some teams right now that have an opening that are waiting to see what the Bruins do before maybe they hire somebody else, because they'd be very interested in Bruce Cassidy if he was available.
Yeah, and he would get hired as soon as he'd want to get hired, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so yeah. That's and that you can take that as a reason to keep him, or but I think it's I'm a big believer in continuity. I'm a big believer. I've been around organizations where the GM's been there a year and a half, and he's getting fired in another 6 months, and the coach is new. It's chaotic and it's not good, and it takes a long time to really get to the point where the Bruins are, and that's a reason not to blow the whole thing up just because the fan base is a little frustrated with the first round loss.
With that said, though, if Patrice Bergeron retires, does that change the perspective, since the DNA of this team becomes so significantly different? Cam Neely admitted that it would take a long time. They'd have to, quote, go to work right away. Yeah, I think so. They'd have to go to work because you can't replace Patrice. But would that change how you, in general, or you personally too, look at this team and how they should approach things this offseason?
Well, you would need to really make a deal then. Yep. Now you're not. Now you need to go get a center. Now you need to give up assets. Now you need to really pivot.
Okay, but don't you need to almost do that, Razor, even if Patrice stays, knowing that he's just about done regardless? Mm-hmm. You're lucky if you get, I think, 2 years out of him. 1, I'd be thrilled. 2, I'd be ecstatic, but we know that would be it. And after that, everybody knows in the Bruins organization they don't have a center coming after that. They don't. They've got a bunch of number 3s.
Yeah. I know. Listen, there's a lot, but, and again, there's no other teams that have number 1 centers just sitting in the AHL. They're not just like hanging out in the AHL, right? Like that. There's not a lot of teams, unless you're drafting top 10 every season, that has these like picks, that these fantastical picks that are sitting in them. It's not like that. They're the number 1 centers, the Austin Matthews of the world, come in and when they're 18 and they dominate. The Connor McDavids, like all these number 1 centers, the Kucherovs, they're not out there. So yeah, it does. It puts them even more pressure if Patrice doesn't come back. Yes, and they're gonna have to start. They know Patrice is done. They're trying to find centers. They're trying to do that, and it's I guess that they'll draft at 24, whatever it is this year. I mean, maybe he'll make it to the NHL. But yes, they're gonna have to hold their head above water if Patrice goes away. They really will, and they're gonna have to really configure things.
Yeah, reconfigure things, because I don't think you can start the year with. I mean, you can start the year. I don't think you're going to finish it where you want to with the Howlas, a Coyle. Maybe you move Frederick back to center. I don't know. And Nosek as your centers, competing with what they have to compete with in the Atlantic. And while we can sit here and say, well, geez, they can't compete with, Florida, I think we know that, when I mean compete, meaning like in a playoff series, you can't compete with them with that lineup regularly. In the regular season either, you're not going to be able to. They definitely have to make a deal, and a significant one. I mean, a lot of chatter out there about a guy like Mark Scheifele. Be nice, but you're giving up a shitload to get him. I mean, a shitload, even if Winnipeg would be willing to trade him. That's the other thing he has to be taken into consideration. But do you also think if Patrice retires, and do you have any different feel, by the way, since last we talked almost 10 days ago, if Patrice will come back or not?
No, I'm still thinking he's back for a year. I think he'll take this time he's out and about, and I get the sense that he'll come back. He might he might regret it a little bit in January after 40 games, and well, boy, I could have been on a beach right now. But I get the sense that he's going to come back for one more.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no feel on it. I have no feel. I admitted it 10 days ago. I can't tell you I feel great about it, but I hope he does. That's it. I just hope he does. The other big concern has to be the hip of Brad Marchand. We haven't had an update on that. If he needs hip surgery, we know Grzelcyk already needs shoulder surgery. But if Brad needs hip surgery this summer and he's not coming back for a while, that's another significant move. I mean, it just feels like this team is on that, the cliff, and it's either a beautiful view out there or potential with one or two moves that go their way that impact, make a big difference with 3 or 4 players, or they're on that cliff looking over and saying, oof, it's a far drop down there, man. It's a far ugly drop, and let's not step over it. I mean, that's just where I feel like this team is, and this is a team that ended the regular season, on a 37-16-3 run from January 1st on, when lineups were changed and reconfigured, and we felt better about them. But we finished the playoffs. And I don't want to say you feel awful. That's not fair at all. And you being the fan, the listener out there, maybe some do. Maybe some are just still do. But I don't feel as good or as hopeful about them, perhaps, Razor, as I did. Let's say with about 2-3 weeks left in the season, when it was seemingly they could do no wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yes, and it's because of the way they lost. You lose in Game 7 to defensive plays that you feel like you got worn down. I guess you feel like you had an opportunity to jump on it. And yeah, it's a team that you can say, oh, there's a cliff coming, right? Like that, to that point, like it does feel like that it could all fall apart very quickly.
Yep.
I guess I look at it, you'd rather that than trying to build and have hope like the Ottawa Senators do and the Buffalo Sabres do every year. And that we kind of talked about that hope already. Like I would rather be able to try and work with what this Bruins team have, try and tinker with it, make the right plays, try and get bigger all over the ice, and but still have a core of a Lindholm, McAvoy, Marchand, Pasternak, Hall, even if Patrice is gone. I'd rather have those pieces than hope that a 19-year-old kid's going to just come out of nowhere. So I agree. I just think that's hard to forecast still. Exactly.
As we sit here and talk and record this episode, it's very hard to forecast because there is a shitload of unknown right now.
Yeah,
about the team. We're definitely gonna be doing another podcast down the road where we have a clear picture on things, and we can talk more. We're talking almost in hypotheticals here, right? We're talking about. We're not almost. We are. We record this. We think Bruce. We both want Bruce to come back as head coach. We think he's coming back. He's under contract. But we don't know because
and no one really does. I would argue that the Cam and Don don't know. Like that seemed evident too. Like it felt like there hasn't, and Patrice doesn't know because he would have told us right now if he knew. Like all of these things, like it's hard for it's hard for us. It's hard for fans to comment because you really truly no one. I don't think anyone knows. They really don't.
So this is really the hypothetical. This isn't a special brew. This is a
It's the
hypothetical
hypothetical
brew.
brew. Yeah,
That's
it's
what
a
it is. Yes,
hypothetical
this is
brew.
that's what we should call it, the hypothetical brew. I quickly want to run through just a few things, a few players in particular on the team, and then maybe just get a couple memories or best moments, etc., from the Bruins season as we wrap up this morning brew with Jaffe and Razor, with a couple of more things right here. But I mean, starting with the goaltending, obviously something near and dear to your heart. Can you remember? Is it possible to remember how you felt? You know how it started and where it ended, and how you feel about it. Are you? Do you remember how you felt when you began on the Bruins and Linus? And I'm sure we could pull up our show so we can call
Yeah.
ourselves out, so to speak, on it. But with Linus and Swayman to begin, and and another unknown at the time of Tuukka Rask, to how it started, where it ended, and where are you at on the goaltending?
Well, so I think for me, the season played out how I expected, and I feel very confident if we pulled up the October show, it would sound very similar. Where you want to see Swayman grow. I of course was hoping and thought that Tuca would come back and be healthy and pick up where he was. So I missed on that for sure because I did
Mm-hmm.
think Tuca was going to be good for 30 games and win Game 7 for this team.
Mm-hmm.
With Swayman, he progressed through the season. He got demoted, so he had to go through a little adversity, which I expected him to have to do, and I thought he did a good job with all of that. He came back, had a great February, struggled at the end, and I expected that. I looked at that 33 game mark for him, and anything after that was going to be difficult. He just hasn't played that, and I think that snuck in a little bit. You go through the league a few times, teams start feeling comfortable shooting on him, feel comfortable picking his spots. And then Linus was what I thought he'd have trouble early. I thought he was going to be good though, and I think at the end of the year, what you got out of both of those guys was what got you into the playoffs, was serviceable. You'd be happy about. At the end, I wanted one of them to step up in the playoffs, and we didn't get that. So
Right.
I feel like we're going into next season probably more comfortable with both of those guys, but still not knowing who is actually going to make a bigger jump on this team again next season. And it feels as though, listen, this team was very good defensively, really, really good defensively again. They
Yeah.
did not give up a lot of opportunities. You look at all the numbers that are right at the top of the league. The goalies needed to steal a game. Every series you see it, you got to steal a game. They didn't get that, and now that's where it leaves me a little unsure of who's actually going to grab it and go next year. It's harder to play your second year in the league for Swayman. Does he have any of a
Mm-hmm.
letdown coming off the end of his regular season? And then for Allmark, can he make a step more now that he's been in Boston for a year?
Fourth best or fourth fewest goals allowed at, I think it was 220, as the Bruins again found themselves near the top of the list of defensive teams, as Razor, you just mentioned. Would you feel confident if they made a trade of one of these two guys, either one, that if it really was going to benefit the team, that one of these two guys could carry the load? Because on the one hand, I would guess that they want to keep Swayman, if only because of his age and potential. On the other hand, Swayman probably carries, even though Olmark's under contract for 3 more years, it's at a $5 million price tag, and he showed himself pretty well the end of the second half of the season. But I think the Bruins would get more back for a Jeremy Swayman type deal. So how would you feel if the Bruins dangled one of those two guys? It wouldn't bother me. It wouldn't, because I don't see either of them right here, right now, is untouchable. And that doesn't mean I don't think that they can both be very good NHL goalies, if not great, especially for Swayman.
Yep.
It means that right now, I don't think anything is off the table right now for
No,
the Bruins.
if you're getting a first line center, that second line 1B center for one of those goaltenders, you're doing it not even thinking twice. It's
Right.
absolutely, it's not, you don't have, again, you like both of those guys and what they've done, but they're not Andre Vasilevsky, if that's what we're talking about, right? Like
Right.
it's not locked in stone that these guys are both franchise guys forever, and they could be, and you can make that step. And Swayman's more likely because he's younger and we haven't seen it as much. But if you're getting Scheifele for him, then well, all right, we'll find another young guy out there,
Right.
or an older guy, whatever it is. So it's again, this is like the hypothetical show that we're doing, but
Right.
no, they were very good. They're not that, and they still need another step. You look at Shesterkin, you look at Vasilevsky, even what Ronta did, right? Like, yeah, it was something the Bruins need a little bit more, and they're going to need a big summer from both of those guys.
Yeah. Curious to see what kind of a steps Jeremy Swayman takes. I think he's got fantastic work ethic. We know he's a student of the game. Big summer for him. Big summer for Linus, too. He will be much more comfortable coming back immediately. We know that. But Swayman is the one that is incredibly interesting given his potential. Potential is a wonderful thing.
Mm-hmm.
It can also be a tough thing if it doesn't work out the way that you expect. The other couple of players I want to hit on, Charlie McAvoy, 56 points in 78 games this year, by far a career high. 4 power play goals out of his 10 goals. 5 of his 10 goals this year, 5 of 10 were game-winning goals. That shows his ability to, bring it when it matters most. He led the team at 24:39 total time on ice, average ice per game. 66 minutes in penalties. I believe second on the team behind Brad Marchand. The most ferocious body checker that they have, complete legal body checker that they have. And to me, I think we're just seeing, as using the word potential again, I thought like this year we saw him start touching that potential of ultra elite defender. The sky's the limit with this guy. Does he ever win Norris? I don't know. There's a lot of amazing young defensemen in the game, Razor. But this, folks, and this is a great draft pick, by the way, from the Bruins and Don Sweeney at 14th overall. Here's a guy that is nothing but stud Charlie, and what a year he had. And I hope he does one day get into the Vezina. Geez, that would be impressive.
That would be impressive.
The Norris Trophy talk. But if only because of the individual recognition that he deserves. But people around the league know how special he is. And I hope Bruins fans appreciate how special he is.
No question what the league thinks of him now and what everyone around hockey think of him. That he's a number one guy. And yes, he might not get to that top 3 number every year, but if you're top 6, 7, you're in a good spot. Your team's in a good spot. If you have one of the 7 best defensemen in the world, you're okay. You're always looking for those guys like you're looking for centermen. So no, he had a great year. He made a great step, signing a big deal. He could have had pressure on him. Got better because of it. Got better because of that big deal. And I like his game. He would be, I guess if you want to be critical, you hope he works on a shot. You hope he can find a ceiling, a little bit more room there to really hammer some shots home and get more in because that's the thing for me offensively on the back end. They need more offense. That's a lot of secondary scoring you're seeing in the playoffs. That allows the Coils to tip pucks in. It allows the Coils to get pucks go off their backs. It's allowed the Smiths to get rebound goals. A lot of that comes from that back end, and that's going to be something the Bruins really have to get better at.
Well, the back end could see not a facelift, a change with, obviously a full season of Hampus Lindholm. That's a big difference, in theory at least.
Yeah.
Sure hope so. Jacob Zavoral signs a 2-year extension. He's got to get healthy. Now we're talking about hope again for now, Razor. That's in my opinion, at least. Is a knee injury. Look, we know we saw good things out of him.
With Zaboral, there's less hope for me on Zaboral than there was a year ago. We were
I
hoping
agree.
Zaboral would come in. Zaboral played really good, and
But
I'm
you hope that his knee injury doesn't hinder him. You know?
and again, most guys do nowadays, right? Most guys do. So yeah, I have a lot of I think I have confidence that he's going to take a step again because he was good last year.
Well, we're assuming that Derek Forbert's back for sure, and if only because we saw his value in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got some other question marks. What's up with Matt Grzelcyk? Dislocated shoulder, been dealing with forever this all season now. How long does he take to come back after surgery from, dealing with a similar injury, not dislocation, but shoulder? It can be a long 6 to 8 months. Who knows, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that could be a long time. Hopefully, it's 4 to 6 months for him. But he had I'd say an up and down year. Carlo had an up and down year. Clifton had an up and down year, despite the fact that he finished very well. Connor Clifton, I felt had an up and down year. I loved what he did at the end, but you got to also work at the body of work. So I could see 2 changes easily on the back end. And I think they need to, quite honestly, Bud. I do. I think they need to, from prickness and snarl and size, sheer size. I think they need to add some of that ability and some of that feature, some of that,
Yeah, and they need someone to shoot it. They need
and somebody to shoot. You're right.
They need someone who can hammer it. They need someone they can put on at one time. They need someone who can hammer it. But they need to get big, and that usually goes with a bigger guy. That usually goes with someone that can play harder. So yeah, I think that's where the biggest facelift comes from. And they started with Lindholm. Again, he wasn't here that much. He didn't play many regular season games, missed some playoff games as well. It starts there, and it has started there. But no, there's still some room to make a big difference. I think that's where the team makes the biggest difference is on the back end.
It would help.
Assuming Bergeron comes back, right? Like we're just assuming he's back. If you can get that back end fortified, then you're going to automatically be better than what we just saw.
That's the hope, right? Jake DeBrusk, we touched on this 10 days ago. I still think they look at a trade.
It seemed that was a 1 year end thing that clarified a little bit more was them talking, nothing's changed. He's a little happier, but nothing's changed, which tells me that they're going to love to get him in a package.
Right. I think that's the big thing. You try and package him with somebody else to make a bigger deal. I forgot, by the way, about Mike Riley on the back end. Now if you've got Riley and Zaboral and a healthy Grzelcyk, it's just too much of the similar style. They have to make a significant move back there. The Curtis Lazar question, I hope they keep him. It may be tough to keep him, though, if he hits the open market.
I think it will be.
I just don't think you can't overpay for guys on the fourth line, but on the other hand, you need to have an impactful fourth line, and he helps make an impactful fourth line. I know it's easy to fall in lust, but you've got to recognize that you can't be paying too much. If you're going to be paying too much, you got to even get more out of it. Look, I've joked and I've been serious about wanting a guy like Nick Delorier. I'm not going to go out and overpay a guy who's 31 years old, Razor, just because they need some guy that can really help intimidate the opponent. What little intimidation is left in the National Hockey League. But I think it's going to be hard to sign Lazar, especially if some team's willing to pay him 1.4. He made 800 last year. I don't know what he's going to expect in a deal.
Yeah, and you got to assume that a team's going to give him one more year than the Bruins will in term. And for a guy like that, he's going to, at the end of the day, he's within a few $100,000. It's going to be that extra year that someone's willing to give him to go wherever it is. So I know other teams really like him. I feel like he's going to be, and it's also another thing. Like if you're going to change things, it's hard to sign unrestricted guys because those are the roster spots that you assume opened up. As good as Lazar has been, if you're changing things and you need different way of playing, then he just did it. Didn't work. So now we have to, he's the one. He is already gone. He's already off the roster. We don't have to buy him out. We don't have to talk about putting him in a package. He's just gone, and we'll get 3-4 more inches out of somebody else who does similar things.
Do you think there's any talk about Nick Foligno? He's got 1 year left on his contract at 3.8, and I don't have the numbers in front of me. If it makes sense to, do you think they'd consider buying him out? Do you think that they just say, "Look, we know he's a great dude, and we know he knows that he didn't have the kind of year that he wanted from start to finish. It did it. It was. I'm gonna guess it is easily one of the most difficult years on the ice for him, if maybe not for sure ever."
Yeah, you have to imagine it was. It's hard to buy those older guys out. It puts you in especially at 3.8. You assume, so I think it's at least half, if not 2/3, at that age. So you're looking
didn't he sign it before he was of
age?
Well,
so even if it's half over 2 years, right? So it's 1.2, 1.2 over the next 2 years in dead cap money, which is a pretty good hockey player nowadays in the NHL. Rather than eating it and see what, if you can take a step early. If not, then you're just there, through the season with it. I think it's hard. I can't imagine a buyout, but it's also a situation that's going to hurt you over the summer. It's a lot of money for a guy that, doesn't have a whole lot left in the tank.
Yeah. Tough year.
Yeah.
I'm going to root for him to have a much better year next year, but how hard will it be with another year under his belt? Two other players, Brad Marchand, David Pastrnak. Another special year for Marchand. Some amazing moments from him, 80 points in 70 games. And we still had some Marchand moments.
A couple suspensions, back at it. A couple
suspensions, yes, added as well. But still the elite of the elite level player in the National Hockey League. If Patrice isn't back, how much does that change for him? People have brought this up too. Is this the kind of guy, hypothetically speaking, that you could move to gain a lot of stuff back? And given his age, I'm saying if Patrice retires, is that even something that should enter? I don't want to see him go. I don't. I just don't. I think you still have enough there otherwise to make some stuff happen. But do you think that would be entertained at all, Razor, in the hypothetical realm?
I don't think so. No, his number's so low for what he does. You're not getting too many 80-point guys making $6 million in this league and bring everything else that he brings. So no, I think that would be really wishful thinking to think that you're gonna, get enough back for what he does to this team and for this team at the number he is. So you're getting, if you're doing that, you're blowing it up. If you get rid of it, you're going for 3 prospects, 2 first-round picks. That's what you're doing for Brad. You're not getting something of value back. You're not trading him straight up for someone that's going to be better than him. That's not possible.
That's not possible. That's not possible at all.
Yeah.
No, that becomes the mega move that again,
that resets everything.
Resets everything out there. David Pastrnak admitted the family situation he went with, losing a child over last summer. The unthinkable situation that he went through for any person, whether you have a child or not, but impacted him for a long time. It was nice to see him smile the second half of the year. It was nice to see him have the freeness to his game, much more so than we saw in the first half. The second half of the year, he's got a contract coming up. You got to get that done, don't you, Razor, sooner than later? Otherwise, you put yourself into a very unenviable position, because now you've waited. You've waited too long. I think, and then especially if you're on like this year, like in and out of the playoff picture until you go on the run. Like, what do you do then? You know what I mean when I say in and out of the playoff picture? I know they were eventually solidified in the top 8 in the East, but you know what I mean, folks. It wasn't like easy early on. But if you don't sign him to a year, and it's got you, isn't he going to want $9 million McAvoy money? Isn't he going to want that?
He's worth it. He gets 40 every year, minimum. So no, that's another one where you get that deal done. You're not, you have to pay it. You know what the market is, you know what the number is, and you work around. You don't let those guys go. And as long as David wants to be here, then I got to imagine they'll get to the number. It'll be high. It's going to be high, everybody, and they're going to have to work around it. But it's, again, you don't let guys like that go.
Yeah,
for the same reason why the Bruins can't sign a guy like that this summer, because they're not out there. They're not on the market.
Right. Well, the only one, and I don't know if you would agree that he's similar or not, is Philip Forsberg. I don't have his numbers in front of me. He's a good player. I don't feel like he's got the pizzazz that Posture does, but that's only probably because I don't know Philip Forsberg's game nearly as well, because I see David all the time.
Yeah.
And Forsberg, he's got a great reputation, but I don't know. I mean, now come playoffs, it's a little herky-jerky up and down at times. The Bruins, I'd like to see get some more on the playoffs out of certain players. And again, does that help with a better defense? I don't know. There's still, listen, we'll wrap this one up here. I think that there's still hope, but I think we need to be real, Razor. We need to be real, that we can't just see a little bit of touch up and think it's going to be okay. I think we've learned enough, and the East is going to be tough again, whether it means that Florida's actually going to win 2 rounds next year, whether it means that Tampa could 4-peat, assuming they can even 3-peat this year. They're still going to be great. That other teams like the Rangers, I by the way, I want to ask you, you put out a tweet, the Bruins, look to be better than the Rangers. I think it was the other night.
Mm-hmm. They would have beat them first round easily, 6 games.
It's interesting. And now here, but we're doing this show while the Rangers are playing Carolina. It looks like they're going to tie up Carolina in that series 2-2.
Mm-hmm.
Does it feel to you, though, that the Rangers have more to come in the future, though, than the Bruins do? And I know that doesn't matter in the here and now.
Yeah.
Maybe to your tweet, but if you had to take team to team heading into next season, Rangers or Bruins? Especially, I mean...
Well, you have the best goal. You have the Vezina Trophy winner. So, you're taking him. Yeah, you are.
Now, we don't know if Kopp's going to be back or Mott's going to be back.
Yeah, they can't sign all those guys. So, they're not, Kopp's
right. Again, hypothetical. Right?
Yeah. But no, you can do that. But also being real, right? Like, I think we all need to be a little realistic that making the playoffs and going 7 games as the first rounds, like, it's hard in the NHL. We just saw it with Florida. Like, they just got smoked. They just got swept 4-0. And yes, I know they're a really good team, but I think it is important for everyone to be realistic that having this conversation that we're having now, which is difficult, and you're wondering what the changes are, but it's a lot better than having teams that have won 30 games, 40 games, and trying to find 28 pieces in the league, and who are these young guys that are signing out of college that are going to make the difference. So I think that's important for everyone to be realistic about as well, that it's there's a lot of envy around the league of the changes the Bruins have to make compared to other teams.
Yeah. The one team, Razor, that I would say that I feel differently about, and I don't think they're great. I don't even think they're really good right now, but I think they're on the right track because I believe in Steve Yzerman and what he did in Tampa. I believe in what he's doing in Detroit. Now, they've been shit at times, and they've drafted, and they're building. But it wouldn't surprise me if they made a little bit of a nice little move next season, adding a piece of the puzzle. They need to get a better goaltender.
Yeah. And they drafted a first-round kid that they're still waiting on. So he's still 3-4 years away. So 3 years.
I could see a couple of players. By the way, congratulations to Stephen Kampfer. Speaking of that, I just remembered that he signed back out of the KHL to go there. I'm just happy for Stephen. I like him. A wonderful kid, fellow Michigan Wolverine. But coming back, and my guess is this will be a last type of year thing or second to last year, and he gets to play in his hometown. So good for him. Good Boston Bruin role player when he was here. But I don't know, just a little tangent. I like what Detroit's doing as I look at them, and I think they're going to build something good there again. But it's taken some years of badness, of real badness, to become good. And let's not forget that. So, all right, well, we covered a ton of stuff here. I don't really think we answered anything.
We did nothing. We got nothing accomplished. Yes,
nothing accomplished except perhaps allowed people to have 2 cups of coffee instead of 1. Listen, a lot of questions still. And again, we're recording this when a lot of shit hasn't been decided.
Yeah.
And you got to respect that. Razor, you and I will be back for some shows in the off season, and we'll keep fans posted when they're going to come out. Obviously, any big Boston Bruin news, we will try to put something out there for sure to hit on that, to give our take. But in the meantime, I know you're going to go away for a little. I'm going to hit the road. I can still do something from the road, from whether it's the Eastern Conference Final or the Stanley Cup. But a fun year, a great year on Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor. Over 205,000 downloads on the podcast platform, starting in mid-October, finishing or going to now. So thank you for those numbers. It's just a little podcast that is getting a little bit bigger day by day. We're not the biggest out there. I don't know if we're the best out there. I hope we're the best Boston Bruins show out there for you folks. But we got a long way to go, but a lot of good building has been done this year. We're like the Bruins and like both Razor and my lawn. We still got a lot of work to do to get even better. And by the way, on the YouTube side of things, I think we're over 55,000 views since October as well. So we're pushing 260,000 plus views, listens. And so we're doing some great stuff. Your listeners are awesome. Our sponsors this year, awesome. Fazenda continues to be with us. So again, we can't thank them enough. Make sure to check out fazendacoffee.com/morningbrew, and also our friend Coach Glenn Tucker over at shootthescore.com. Razor, enjoy Florida. Enjoy chaotic 5 days or so, 4 days down there. And everything that comes with it, and get some rest, get some sun, and we'll talk with you again when you come back. And like I said, I'll be hitting the road in less than a week and heading out to talk some more playoff hockey. So great year, my friend. Again, I know we're going to talk, but and I say this as I sound like an old geezer saying this, buddy, but you're to me, you are by far the most improved person out there right now from year to year, what you've done in the world of broadcasting. So keep it up, man.
Thank you, sir. I've got a good mentor, and
you're doing a great job. You are awesome, and fun to do this show. And folks, more Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor will be coming up at times again over the summer. Maybe a couple of alumni interview. Give us some names, perhaps, that you're interested in. Make them realistic, please, realistic, and we'll try and get them. Again, Razor, have a great trip. Be safe, and folks, go out there, enjoy your day. I hope you enjoyed this show. And please, 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 please enjoy your Fazenda or other coffee.